Hello and welcome to a short tutorial on how to sew on your LEDs. First, look at your schematic. What does it indicate you are going to do? When I look at mine, it looks like I'm going to sew from the number 1 on the microcontroller up to the edge of the toy, and then sew over the edge. So the first thing I'm going to do is sew down the number 1 with 3 nice stitches. I want it to be securely fastened to the fabric, and I want to make a good connection between the conductive thread and the terminal. Notice that I started from the inside of the terminal and then went outside, and then the second time I sewed from the outside to the inside. Really doesn't matter which way you go, you just need to make sure that you're sewing it down tightly. You also want to make sure that you're not getting any loops or knots on the back of your toy. So here I am untangling a loop that I created and pulling it through so that I don't have extra thread on the back of my toy, which could cause a short. Looking at my schematic again, I see that I'm sewing from the 1 terminal up to the top of the toy's head. So I just put in a few stitches until I reach the edge. When I reach the edge, I need my second half of my toy. I'm going to line them up as nicely as I can, making sure that the insides and outsides are where they're supposed to be. And then I'm going to actually connect the 2 pieces at the edge. So I'm going to sew through both pieces of fabric and then come back around over the edge and sew through both pieces of fabric one more time. This puts a nice strong stitch on the edge and will help prevent tearing or anything like that, so that your toy is functional. Do not forget then to open up your toy and have the 2 pieces completely separate. If you sew your 2 pieces together, then you can't stuff them. You can't put any stuffing in between. So I consult my schematic again to make sure that I have the location of the LED correct, and then I sew my stitches to that location. So in this case, it was just a couple of stitches. And now I thread on the positive side of the LED because I'm connecting this to number 1 on the microcontroller that connects to the positive end of the LED. I sew the positive end of the LED with 3 nice, tight, small stitches, and then I tie off. If your schematic shows that this LED that you've just sewn the positive side on connects to another LED, then don't tie off. At this point, you would just sew to the next positive location. If number 1 on your microcontroller, or whatever number you're connected to right now, is connected to multiple LEDs, you can sew directly to those other LEDs' positive terminals at this time. Because my schematic shows that I'm only connecting to this one LED, I tie off. You never connect the negative and positive ends of your terminals directly. That's just a short. The electricity will flow through the wire and not through the LED at all, and nothing will light up. So you never sew directly from positive to negative or negative to positive. Always cut your tails really short. Check your schematic and see where you should sew next. So for example, mine, it looks like I need to sew from the negative end of my LED to the other side of my toy. So I'm going to sew my negative end with 3 nice tight stitches with a new piece of thread, and then I'll sew over to the edge. I am making sure not to sew both sides of the fabric together. I am just sewing on the front of the toy. When I reach the edge, then I will connect the 2 pieces of fabric in that one place at the edge. I put my needle through both layers of fabric and I make sure I don't make a knot accidentally. And then I push the needle back through both pieces of fabric again. That makes a nice connection right there at the edge. Then I can still separate the two pieces of fabric and sew the rest of the way. According to my schematic, I'm going to sew to the negative terminal of the battery pack, but I could sew to the negative terminal of the microcontroller too. Either would be the same connection in this case. Make sure you really use your schematic well. It should indicate what you should connect and has been approved by me, so it hopefully is correct and will work. When you reach the negative terminal or the snap or the other item that you are actually sewing on, make sure you sew it down with 3 nice tight stitches again so that you're making a good connection and securing it. Then tie off unless your schematic shows that you would be sewing to something else. So for example, I could connect all of the negatives of my LEDs in one long string, with one long piece of thread. When you're finished sewing, you should be able to clearly follow the stitches and compare them to your schematic and make sure that you've sewn things correctly. When you look at the inside of the toy, you should not see any bubbles or loose threads on your fabric. Those are the things that cause problems and shorts. Thanks for watching.